So my name is Katie Shaw, and I am so glad that you have joined me today. This is the agenda for our session today. So we have 20 minutes, and we are going to touch on all of this information during our session. So we're going to look at how to collaborate using our annotation and whiteboard tools inside of a Webex Teams meeting. We're going to talk about how to use Webex Teams for breakout sessions, which is something a little bit different. Many people think of the larger platform of Webex training when they want breakout sessions, but there's a really quick and easy way to do it inside of Teams. So we'll take a look at that. And then we will look at where we can find information on the bots and the available integrations for Webex Teams. At the end of that, we'll do some questions, and I will give you plenty of time to ask anything that you have burning in the back of your mind. So let's jump in. So first things first, we can use Webex Teams for collaboration. Hang on, this is being weird. Just a second here. Okay, there we go. And we can very easily start a meeting, start a phone call, start a screen share with anybody that we have inside of a Webex Teams space, okay? So these can be one-on-one. You can have a one-to-one meeting or screen share with someone in your Webex space. You could have a whole department meeting or a team meeting or a cross-functional group inside of your Webex Teams, and then start a meeting with them with one click, okay? So we'll look at how to do that in just a second. And then once you're in that meeting, you have the ability to use the wide variety of tools to collaborate on whatever content it is that you're looking at, okay? So let's look at my Webex Teams. And here, I have just kind of narrowed in on a specific space, and this is a one-to-one space, so I'm in a space with this one other person. And when I am ready to either start a meeting or maybe we're chatting back and forth about a topic, and it would just be quicker if they could see what I see and I could hear them versus typing everything out, because we know that sometimes all we need to do is, do a quick 5-minute meeting off the cuff, and we can resolve, 15 emails, right? We don't need to go through that. So when I click into a space in Webex, I see, I see at the top, I have the ability to look at the messages, look at the content that we've shared, or look at scheduling a meeting with them, okay? Now, if I didn't want to schedule a meeting, if it was just kind of one of those, hey, do you have time now? Sure. And I didn't want to go through the process of scheduling a Webex meeting, I can very easily click one of the icons up here at the top, and I can choose to share my screen. So that's this blue icon on the left. The green in the middle is a phone call, and then on the right-hand side, we have a video chat, okay? So let's say that I wanted to start a video chat with this other person. We need to collaborate on a spreadsheet, and I need them to see what I'm looking at, make sure that we're on the same page. So I'm going to click on that green video camera, and this is the interface that's going to pop up. So I haven't started my video yet. They're not sharing their video yet. So, this should look very familiar if you use Webex meetings. All of the same icons are down here at the bottom. You have all of the same functionality. We've just started the meeting from a different platform. If you don't see your Webex controls when you first start the meeting, just wiggle your mouse around. They'll pop up, same as in a Webex meeting, okay? Now, if I wanted to annotate or share content, those are in my toolbar. So the share icon is still right here. It looks exactly the same as it does in Webex meetings. And when you click it, you get the same options. You're going to get the same, screen 1, screen 2, or if you want to share a specific application, you have that ability as well. Now, in this particular session, we're going to talk about annotating and using whiteboards. So underneath the More icon, which is the 3 dots there, kind of on the right-hand side of my controls, I can click that and I see my options inside of this particular session. So I can add a guest. So if I wanted to say, oh, hey, you know what? Sue from accounting should be in this as well. Let me add her to this really quickly. I can click Add Guest. I can start a new whiteboard, or I can change how I am connected to audio. So let's say that I dialed in, have my phone call, my cell phone call in, and all of a sudden my service starts getting really inconsistent, not very good service. I can change that on the fly inside of this meeting. It's not going to disrupt anything. It's going to smoothly transition from one audio source to another. But right now, I want to choose a new whiteboard. So I want to click New Whiteboard, and this is what I'm going to see when I launch a new whiteboard inside of this meeting. Now, a whiteboard is really just a blank slate. It allows you to do a number of things. So your controls are at the bottom of the interface here, and I'm going to make them just a little bit bigger so that we can see what it is we're working with. So in the center, you have a whole string of colors that you can choose from. So by default, let me show you here, you have the drawing icon selected. So this is just a pencil that you can choose the color of, and then go to town, use your mouse, draw on the whiteboard space. So if you are, trying to come up with a workflow, or if you are talking about, how you're going to allocate certain resources, you can draw it up right here on the whiteboard space. The other option that you have is to use sticky notes. So sticky notes are really just a little colored square that you can type text into. You can change the color of them. You can, once you place them on the whiteboard, you can click them and rearrange them anywhere you want to on the screen. So it really is just like if you were in a room with a whiteboard and you had a pad of sticky notes and you were going to mind map something, or you're brainstorming. It's a super easy way to get your ideas out there and then be able to manipulate them, drag them around, group them different ways once the ideas are kind of out there in the world. Okay, so the icon over here, that's your sticky notes. Okay, so your undo button. So if you have, maybe you've misdrawn a line, or you want to, remove what it is you just put up there on your whiteboard, you can very easily click that undo button and it will undo your last action. We talked about your sticky notes there, right? Sticky notes allow you to type text onto that. You can resize the sticky note, resize your text, all of that right within your whiteboard. Once you have, kind of collaborated on your whiteboard space, if you wanted a clean slate to start with, you could very easily click this icon over here, the rectangle with the plus sign. That is your new whiteboard icon. So if I click that, it's going to kind of wipe the slate clean and I'm able to start over. If I like what I have and I am content with what I see, I could then click, done. Okay, done is going to save this whiteboard to your team's space. Okay, it's going to be accessible to you after this meeting is over. That way, if you ever wanted to pull it back up and say, hey, this one particular Webex board, where was that going to go? What department did we decide? You can pull up your whiteboard and take a look at where your resource allocation, what you had decided on. Okay. Now let's say that I am doing a content share. I've shared out this particular Excel document, and I want someone to help me brainstorm and help me think about what we're doing. So in here, you can see that I have added a new note. This is a sticky note that I created by clicking that sticky note icon, and then I typed in all my information so that it's literally there on the document so that I can see it. I could also use any of my annotation tools down here, and I could draw on things. I can cross them out. I can color code them just with these simple tools inside of our whiteboard space. Okay. So same tools, same availability of options on top of whatever it is that you are sharing inside of the meeting. All right, so if our meeting is over and I wanted to look at the whiteboard that we developed and the annotations that we'd made on that spreadsheet, I would click back into my Teams space with that particular person, and up at the top, I'm going to click on my Content tab. Inside the Content tab, you will see any of the whiteboards, any of the collaboration on documents that you have done. All of that is available inside of Content. You have access to files as well. So if you and this other person or this other department have been sharing files or documents back and forth, the Files tab allows you to see all of your file shares back and forth, and they're organized in chronological order. So it's super easy to find something. If you know that it was sent last week, you can quickly, instead of scrolling through 5,000 messages, you can quickly come to the Content tab, check on Files, and it will be right there. And as you can see, the thumbnail images are pretty large, so it makes it easy to understand what it is you're looking at without having to open each and every one. All right. So your whiteboards live there, and be aware that if you mouse over any of your whiteboards, you're going to have the option to delete those. Once you delete it from the space, you have deleted it forever. There's no undo button on that delete. So make sure that if you are looking to clean up your space, that you've got the correct item selected, because we can't reverse that once you delete it from the space. Okay. All right. Up next, let's talk about Webex Teams and how you can use breakouts for those. Okay. So a lot of times in large presentations, we're thinking about how do we get our learners involved? How do we get people to participate? Because it's really easy to hide behind, the faux, paying attention that we can do so well and multitask behind the scenes, okay? So with a breakout room or a breakout session, it's an easy way to get people reconnected to the content, get them collaborating, get them brainstorming and working together. Now, one thing that we want to make sure is that we have planned out our breakout sessions really well, because as a former teacher, I understand that when I put students into groups, if I don't manage it well, plan it well, and set expectations, it's the fastest way to lose control of a group, right? So in order to have breakouts work well for us, we want to make sure that this is not something that we go, oh, hey, you know what? This is a great time for a breakout. I'm going to wing it. That's not the best way to work a breakout room, okay? So make sure that you've thought this through, you have it well organized and planned out. Have very clear objectives for the session that are going to need to be demonstrated, okay? So make sure people understand that there are, these requirements and this is what you're going to do to show your learning or show your progress to the rest of the group. Make the groups very small so that people all have things to do. Don't let anybody kind of freeload in the background. Think about how people are broken up. Who would benefit from being in a group together? Should they be cross department? Should they all be, interdepartment? What is the best composition for the group? Clearly define how much time they have. Don't let them just kind of run wild with an unlimited clock. Clearly define when they're expected back in the main session. Designate a facilitator for each group. And make sure that before you integrate breakout sessions into your experience, that the group that will be in the session are pretty well adept at using the technology, right? If it's the first time that you have used a platform, that's probably not the best time to integrate a breakout group. We want to make sure that people aren't going to be distracted by the technology or unable to execute the steps required to join the breakout session. Okay, So once we've determined all of those things and we have our sessions well planned out, here's what we can do. This is my Webex Teams menu. So that's over on my left-hand side of my interface. And if I go to the Teams section of my Webex Teams, yes, there is a menu called Teams inside of an application called Teams. It's a little bit confusing, but I promise it works just perfectly fine. If you click that little, circle, you're going to get taken to your teams. So this might be a section that you've never explored before. I would encourage you to do it. Each team can be comprised of different spaces. So here's my team. I am going to create a new team for my breakout session, and I'm going to do that by clicking this plus sign. If I click the plus sign, I get this form to fill out. I give the team a name. I describe it. I don't have to, and I can add people directly through this form, okay? Now, you don't have to add people at this point. You can just kind of structure the team to be ready for, maybe the day of your presentation or something like that. So here's my sample team, and then once I click on that team, I have an interface that looks like this. So I've come over and I've clicked on people, because I see that I am the only person in this team. Why? Because I'm the person who created this team. Now, I would like to add a space to this team, because that's how I'm going to designate my different working groups for my breakout sessions. So if I wanted to add people here, I could add people the day of the event so that they are getting all this information on the day that they need it. So quickly add people using their email address. It's a very similar form to the one you saw previously. Super, super simple to add people. When I'm ready to add teams or spaces to this team, I go ahead and I click Create a Space. When I create a space, I'm just going to quickly populate the names. So I've got team 1, 2, and 3 here. And then from there, I am going to add people to each team. That way, nobody is confused about where they belong. And they're only going to see the team that they have been placed in. So everybody can see the general space, but only the people who are assigned to the respective teams will be able to see that in their Webex Teams interface. Okay? All right. So in the general section, that's where I'm going to put my instructions, my main instructions for the group. So how long do you have? How do you get to your specific breakout group? So put in there, you're going to click on the team that you see on the left-hand side of your interface. What is the reward for accomplishing this task completely and correctly first? So this is where you can put all of your basic instructions for your participants. After that, they're going to click into their team, and they're going to see their specific task. So each team could have a different task, or each team could have the same task. Totally up to you. Depends on what it is you're doing with your participants. So this is just a a sample here. I've got a couple riddles that I want them to use a whiteboard. So we're going to do a couple of different ways to interact with the technology and their other group participants. Okay. All right, shifting gears. Got a couple minutes left. So what do we want to think of in terms of bots and integrations? So with Webex, there is a lot of possibility. With the bots and integrations, we kind of want to shift our mind and move from this specific productivity tool to what else do we use in our everyday lives to help us streamline activities. So think Siri. Right? I can pick up my phone. I can talk to my phone and tell it to put an appointment on my calendar or set an alarm, set a timer, something like that. Alexa. Alexa is super useful for a lot of different things in our family. Let's basically used to play music all the time, right? But all of these have different purposes that help us to do tasks that otherwise might distract us from what it is we're focused on. So all of these are examples of some artificial intelligence that will help us with our daily tasks. The Webex bots and integrations can be used to help us for a number of different purposes. I've heard of a lot of organizations using these in a variety of ways. So really you could take a simple integration and you can make it be what you need. So incident management, if you wanted to immediately notify your security team when there was, maybe something on a specific security camera, or if someone is blocking a fire lane at a particular store, you could have Webex Teams notify that security group through an integration. Finance operations, if you have specific tasks that need to be done every single month in order to balance your books, you could have an integration run through your Webex Teams group to notify you of when that's done and what the results are. Content management, meetings and scheduling, customer service, task management, polling of your groups, your teams, your departments, as well as notifications and alerts. So lots of different ways that you can use these integrations. So these are the same links that are inside of the chat that I put up there earlier. And if you were to click on those links, there is so much information about the integrations for Webex meetings, Webex Teams, and if you don't like what you see or one of those predefined integrations doesn't work for you, there is a ton of information in that doc, so that second link, about how to build your own. So if you have an innovations group like we do here at SMP, you could kind of throw them a bone and say, hey, this is what we need. You guys have the bandwidth for this. And I don't know about you guys, but our innovation team is always interested in what they can build to help out their coworkers. So take a look at this, and if you aren't the person to build this, then maybe pass it on to some of your IT folks, some of your designers and developers who might be interested in this type of innovation. All right, so quick review, and we'll open it up for some questions. You can start calls, you can start video meetings or content sharing with a single click inside of your Webex Teams. All of that is built in, and it is super, super easy to use. You can share content immediately with the people in your Webex Teams space. This happens all the time with the group that I work with. When we were working in the office, we all sat in the same area, but rather than always constantly, calling people over to your desk to look over your shoulder at a particular project or document, we would just start a screen share really quick so that everybody's sitting at their desk, but we can all still see what it is that one person is working on and offer feedback or suggestions or help answer questions. Super easy. You can use whiteboards and annotation tools when you're sharing content or before you share content, or the whiteboard that can become the content that you're sharing and collaborating on, depending on what the purpose is at that point. And all of that can be super easy to share and pull up at a later time. So you don't have to take screenshots. You don't have to worry about, writing down everything for meeting notes. It's all there. It's saved inside of your space. You can easily configure groups and tasks and manage your event more successfully with higher rates of engagement if you use breakout rooms. Okay, if we had more time, I would have put you guys into breakout rooms to work on, let's say a puzzle or something super simple, so that you can just see how it is to work with a breakout session. They're really easy to set up ahead of time, and the fact that they're persistent is nice because you, as the kind of the creator, you can go back and see who attended, who was in what group, and what the results of their group work was. So if you are doing a sales meeting, you can go back in and you can look and see at, what the pitch was that this particular group developed, who was a member of that group, You don't have to take notes all the time on, well, who won the pitch contest, or who won the the lightning round of group trivia or something like that. You don't have to document all of that all the time. You can rely on your Webex Teams to save that information, and it's persistent because of its persistent nature. You can easily set up and configure Webex Teams bots and integrations to streamline your workflows. And from what I've seen and from what our innovations group tells me, the API is super easy to work with in terms of innovation, or in terms of development and integration. So that is what I have for right now. And I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to think about any questions that you have. Feel free to pop them into the chat or into the Q&A, or to just kind of notify me that you have a question by using the feedback tools in our interface. So one last thing to think about while you're chewing on some questions is, if you are interested in viewing any of the previous Webex Wednesday sessions, they are all available on the SMP-Corp YouTube channel, and you can share them with coworkers, bookmark them for later use, subscribe to our channel for any updates that come in the future. And as always, follow SMP-Corp on LinkedIn for all the information about upcoming webinar sessions, info sessions, and all of the fun things that SMP is up to.